Okay, yeah, so this is a good question, right? If Luke 22:42, which says, "Not my will, but your will be done, Father," if that says that, then how do we understand Christ's will? Well, we understand this as making a distinction between Christ's human will, which is what he's referring to in the verse, and the Father's will, which Christ also shares qua his divine nature. However, the distinction being made here is the will qua divine nature and qua humanity, right? And just to shed a bit more light on this, let's read St. Thomas Aquinas, Summa Theologiae Tertia Pars, Article 5, right? Question 18. So he says, on the contrary, Augustine says this, Contra Maxim 220. When Christ says not that I will, but what thou wilt, he shows himself to have willed something else than did his Father. And this could also have been his human heart, since he did not transfigure our weakness into his divine, but into his human will. I answer that, as was said, Articles 2 and 3, in Christ, according to his human nature, there is a twofold will. The will of sensuality, which is called will by participation, and the rational will, whether considered after the manner of nature or after the manner of reason. Now it was said above that by a certain dispensation the Son of God, before his passion, allowed his flesh to do and suffer what belonged to it, and in like manner he allowed all the powers of his soul to do what belonged to them. Now it is clear that the will of sensuality naturally shrinks from sensible pains and bodily hurt. In like manner, the will as nature turns from what is against nature and what is evil in itself, as death and the like. Yet the will, as reason, may at sometimes choose these things in relation to an end, as in a mere man, the sensuality on and the will, absolutely considered, shrink from burning, which nevertheless the will, as reason may choose for the sake of health. Now it was the will of God that Christ should undergo pain, suffering, and death, not that these of themselves were willed by God, but for the sake of man's salvation. Hence it is plain that in his will of sensuality and in his rational will, considered as nature, Christ would will what God did not. But his will as reason, he always willed the same as God, which appears from what he says in Matthew 26:39, not as I will, but as thou wilt. For he willed in his reason that the divine will should be fulfilled, although he said that he willed something else by another will.